I used to check my bank account and feel physically sick. Not because I was broke. That was the truly terrifying part. I wasn't broke. I was making good money, better money than my parents ever dreamed of making. I was a freelance graphic designer, and by 2018 I was pulling in a solid $72,000 a year. But I still felt that pit of dread every month. That pit wasn't the panic of zero balance. It was the deeper, corrosive fear. I thought I'd never escape. I was trapped in what I now call the scarcity loop. The scarcity loop is the most insidious financial prison in the modern world. It's not reserved for those struggling on minimum wage. It catches smart, hardworking people who hit a decent income level, say $50,000, $80,000, maybe even $120,000, but whose spending and lifestyle commitments grow slightly faster than their ability to save or invest. It's the feeling of earning almost enough to feel secure, but never enough to feel truly free. You're constantly running on the financial treadmill. You get a raise, you speed up, you feel momentarily good, but then the treadmill speeds up to maybe you need a nicer car for the new commute, maybe upgrade your apartment to celebrate, maybe your social life demands expensive dinners. The speed you're running at increases, but your position relative to the finish line never changes. You are perpetually exhausted, sweating, and one bad step away from falling off. For me, that bad step came in October 2018 and I was feeling great. I just landed a new client that was boosting my monthly take-home by about $500. I celebrated by buying a nice new laptop, a frivolous purchase, but I rationalized it as a business expense. 3 days later, my car needed a major transmission repair. The quote, $4,100. I remember staring at that number on the mechanic's clipboard. I had $5,500 in my savings account. That repair would wipe out 75% of my entire buffer. Instantly. All that running, all that stress, erased in one moment. My heart hammered in my chest. I thought, how is this possible? I make good money. I realized then that security isn't defined by the size of your paycheck. It's defined by the distance between your monthly income and your mandatory expenses. And my distance was razor thin. My financial altitude was too low. I had to change everything. I stopped focusing on just earning more and started focusing on breaking the loop itself. Today I want to show you the 4 major shifts: mindset, structure, earning, and defense that allowed me to escape the treadmill, pay off over $40,000 in consumer debt, and start building real wealth. This isn't about extreme budgeting. This is about changing the emotional wire that keeps you clicking, buying, and running in place. Let's start with the invisible enemy, the invisible leaks, the emotional side. The first wall of the scarcity loop is emotional. It's a constant feeling of pressure. And how do we cope with pressure? By seeking temporary relief. This leads to the invisible leaks to spending habits driven by fear, stress, or the sense that I deserve this. When you are stressed about money, your brain is in survival mode. It sees any potential comfort, a nice meal out, a new pair of shoes, that quick Amazon purchase as a necessary release valve. You think, I worked so hard, I'm suffering through this stress. I deserve this $100 reward. This is psychological spending. It's not fulfilling a need. It's attempting to solve a feeling with a transaction. I was a master of this. My job as a freelancer was intense, often involving 12-hour days staring at a screen. By Friday, I felt utterly depleted. My reward system kicked in. My typical Friday night looked like this: order $40 of takeout, buy a few high-end beers, maybe scroll through Reddit and decide I needed a new mechanical keyboard because the old one was hindering my productivity, a $150 lie. Before Monday morning, I had easily dropped $300 without blinking. I was making $72,000 a year, netting maybe $4,800 a month after taxes. A $1,200 leak every month just on stress spending was wiping out 25% of my potential savings. And here's the killer realization. The spending didn't make the stress go away. It just replaced financial stress with guilt, which fed the stress cycle, which demanded the next reward. The loop tightened. To break this, you must introduce friction and awareness. I started doing what I call the cost of joy calculation. Before I bought anything, non-essential anything over $20, I stopped and calculated its true cost in terms of future freedom. If I bought that $5 latte, how many minutes of future financial freedom did I sacrifice? If I invested that $5 at a 7% return over 20 years, it's not $5, it's closer to $20. So that latte is actually costing future me $20. The $150 keyboard, that could be $600 down the line. Suddenly, those small expenses, those invisible leaks, stopped feeling like rewards and started feeling like petty theft against my future self. Practically step 1, mindful consumption audit. Take your bank statement from the last month, highlight every single purchase that was driven by emotion, stress, or boredom. Total it up. When I did this, I found that $1,200 leak, and it was a shocking moment of clarity. Seeing the number is the first step toward shutting down the emotional wall of the scarcity loop. If you don't calculate the cost of your invisible leaks, you will never see the true potential of your income. The treadmill trap, the structural side. The second wall is structural lifestyle creep. Lifestyle creep is the subtle, slow motion inflation of your needs as your income rises. It's why someone making $40,000 can save money, but someone making $80,000 finds themselves consistently broke. When I got my first significant raise early in my career, I jumped from $50,000 to $65,000. I felt rich for exactly 3 weeks. I immediately signed a lease on an apartment that cost $300 more per month. It was nicer, sure, with granite countertops and a better view. Then I financed a slightly newer car. I convinced myself my old one was unreliable, adding $350 to my monthly payment. Then I started dining out at the new places in my new neighborhood. What happened? My income went up by $15,000 annually, but my mandatory expenses, housing, transportation, food went up by about $10,000 annually. I was now earning more, but I needed $833 more per month just to maintain this new baseline. If I lost my job, I was now $833 further away from stability than I was before the raise. I had successfully endured a life that required higher stress to maintain. I had made the treadmill run faster, and my debt felt heavier because the potential fall was greater. The key to escaping the structural wall of the scarcity loop is simple, but brutally difficult to execute. Decouple your lifestyle from your income. You must decide what you need to live comfortably before the raise hits. I learned to live by the pre-ramp-up rule. If you get a raise, or land a bigger client, or get a tax refund, do not allow your lifestyle to absorb that money. Implement the 50-30-20th rule, but be aggressive. 50% for needs, 30% for wants, 20% for savings, debt, investing. But when the new money comes in, pre-assign that extra money to the 20% column before it ever touches the 50% or 30%. When I finally landed that stable $72,000 income, I forced myself to live on the budget I had when I made $60,000. That $1,000 difference per month, it never saw my checking account. It went straight into a high-interest savings account, my friction fund. The friction fund served two purposes. First, it grew my savings. Second, and more importantly, it introduced friction between me and the extra money. Since it wasn't sitting there easily accessible, I couldn't accidentally spend it on emotional rewards or lifestyle upgrades. Practical step 2, implement the pre-ramp-up rule for your next bonus. Raise or extra income stream, immediately automate 80% of it toward debt or investment. Live off the remaining 20% increase for 6 months. This structural discipline stops the treadmill from accelerating and gives you crucial altitude. Shifting altitude, the earning strategy. You can budget, save, and cut expenses until you're eating ramen noodles 3 times a week. But if your income ceiling is too low, you will only escape the scarcity loop into a different kind of scarcity. The scarcity of enjoyment and possibility. The third realization I had was brutal. You can't budget your way out of a scarcity income. If you are stuck earning $35,000 a year in a high-cost area, No amount of coupon clipping will build real financial freedom. You have to focus on disproportionate earning. For years, I was trading my time for money. I was charging $50 an hour for design work. When I worked 40 hours, I earned $2,000. If I wanted $4,000, I had to work 80 hours. My time was the limiting factor. This is the worker mindset in the scarcity loop. Focusing on the input hours worked rather than the output value delivered. I shifted my entire business model. I stopped being an hourly servant and started selling the value of the outcome. Instead of charging a client $2,000 for 40 hours of logo work, I started charging $5,000 for a brand identity solution that will increase your lead conversions by 15%. I was suddenly selling results, not minutes. The effort required might still be 40 hours, but the client's perceived value had skyrocketed because I framed it around their massive financial gain. My earning potential was decoupled from the finite number of hours in the day. This required me to invest heavily in one thing. My hell of age skill, for me, was advanced brand strategy and digital marketing. I spent $5,000 on high-level courses and coaching that allowed me to charge premium rates. Many people are terrified of spending money on education or skill upgrades when they are in the scarcity loop because it feels risky. They see it as another expense, but I realized that investing $5,000 into a skill that could immediately allow me to charge $100 more per hour was not an expense, it was an infinite ROI asset. The best use of capital when you are starting out is not the stock market, it is yourself. Practice with step 3, identify and price your outcome. Stop calculating what your time is worth and start calculating what the result you produce is worth to the end user. What is your highest leverage skill? Invest 10% of your current income over the next 6 months exclusively into training and systems that will allow you to charge 50% more for your work. Don't seek an hourly rate increase. Seek an income ceiling breakthrough, building the barrier, the investing defense. If you successfully implement the mindset shifts, the structural changes, and the earning breakthroughs, you will start generating genuine surplus. This is where the fourth and final wall of the scarcity loop must be addressed. The fear of loss. The scarcity loop trains you to hoard cash. When you finally have $10,000 saved, the thought of putting that money into something risky, like the stock market, feels terrifying. You think, what if I lose it? I fought so hard for this buffer. This hoarding mentality is a defense mechanism developed during financial trauma. It's what keeps people stuck with 5 figures sitting idle in a low-interest savings account, effectively losing purchasing power every year due to inflation. I started seeing my cash buffer not as a static shield, but as a temporary staging ground for my financial army. Cash sitting still doesn't fight inflation. It surrenders slowly. The only way to build a sustainable barrier against the scarcity loop, a barrier that can withstand market crashes, job losses, and inflation, is to put your money to work. You need money generating money independent of your 9 to 5 or your freelance hours. I started small, painfully small. I committed to investing just $100 a month into a total market index fund. That was it. The psychological breakthrough wasn't the amount, it was the automation. Every month, on the first $100 left my checking account and went into the investment platform. I didn't look at it for 6 months. This introduced the powerful concept of compounding as a defense system. Compounding interest is your financial time machine. It's what shifts you from being a consumer to being an owner. It's the engine that finally allows you to generate wealth at a speed faster than lifestyle creep can consume it. When you invest, you're planting seeds of wealth that will grow into a forest over decades. When you save cash, you're simply storing lumber. Both are valuable, but only one creates sustainable, self-replicating growth. Finally, I calculated my freedom number. This isn't a retirement number. It's the number I need invested such that 4% of that total amount covers my basic living expenses, my $60,000 budget, not my $72,000 income budget. When I saw the specific, achievable goal, not just the vague concept of being rich, the fear dissolved. I had a target, and every investment dollar was a missile pointed straight at that target. Practical step for automate your offense. Today, Commit to automating the first 10% of every paycheck directly into a diversified investment vehicle like an index fund. Treat this automation like a mandatory bill. It is the payment for your future self. Do this before you pay rent, before you buy groceries, and definitely before you spend money on emotional rewards. This automated consistency is the ultimate countermeasure to the unpredictable stress of the scarcity loop. The horizon of hope. The scarcity loop is cruel because it makes you feel like a failure even when you are working yourself to death. It's a prison built on good intentions and poor design, but you are not defined by your debt, your monthly stress, or your current bank balance. You are defined by your capacity to learn and your willingness to change the structure of your financial life. We broke the 4 walls of the prison today. 1. The emotional wall. By recognizing stress, spending, and implementing the cost of joy calculation. 2. The structural wall. By decoupling our income and implementing the pre-ramp-up rule and the friction fund. 3. The earning wall. By shifting from trading time to selling the value of the outcome. 4. The fear wall. By automating our investments and treating compounding as our essential defense system. Financial freedom is not a sudden jackpot. It's the slow, intentional accumulation of distance between your mandatory expenses and your income. It's altitude. If you are trapped on that fast-moving treadmill today, you can step off. It starts right now. Check your current bank account balance. Not with dread, but with clinical curiosity. Identify one invisible leak, maybe one unused subscription, and cut it today. And most importantly, automate a single small investment deposit for the first of next month. Start small, be consistent, be compassionate with yourself, but demand discipline. The treadmill is waiting for you to jump back on, but the horizon of real financial freedom is waiting for you to walk toward it. You have the map. Now, take the first step. Thank you for watching. If this story resonated with you, hit that like button and subscribe so we can navigate this new economy together.